If they're beating me, go down and indict them. Trump is forecasting that in a second term, he will wield power however he chooses, unconstrained by the rule of law. This is some truly scary, authoritarian, banana republic type stuff, and we should hear it that way. Just yesterday, he took to Truth Social to imply that Democrats, or any political opponents, frankly, are the greatest threat to America and need to be rooted out like vermin. Vermin is the word he used there. And it's not just rhetoric. Remember, the Washington Post reported just last week about specific plans Trump and his allies have drafted to put his words into action. On top of planning to launch investigations into people who dared to critique him or disagree with him during his time in office, including people who worked for him. His team has also started to map out plans to invoke the Insurrection Act on his first day in office, which basically would allow him to dispatch the military against civil demonstrations. Think about how crazy that is. Oh, and in the same Univision interview, he also defended his family separation policy at the border. And new reporting from the New York Times this weekend confirms he also has plans for sweeping raids of undocumented immigrants, mass deportations, and the creation of giant camps. He wants to restate the Muslim ban, something he also repeated this weekend. And when he was asked about it this week, about how the U.S. can stop the killing of innocent people in the Israel-Hamas war, he basically said we should just let it all play out. And yet, the hand-wringing and cocktail party speculation about an alternative to Joe Biden is continuing, will continue. Guess what? Joe Biden isn't perfect. No candidate is, by the way. But we have to understand what the alternative is here. If elected to a second term, Donald Trump would prosecute anyone he deems an enemy, unleash troops on protesters, and essentially unravel the rule of law as we know it. And this time, he plans to line his administration with people who will actually help him do it. But sure, Joe Biden is 3 years older and occasionally trips over things. Look, there's a lot to be concerned about right now when it comes to a second Trump term. The speeches are getting much more disturbing and much more unhinged, and we should all hear it that way. It's also important to talk about all of this and important to call it out. But there is nothing more important than digging into his actual plans. The faintest of silver linings here is that Trump is warning us, in his own voice, with a microphone on and a camera rolling, by the way. He's telling us exactly what he plans to do. We all just need to listen. Joining me now is Congressman